Yeah! All night long.
Okay, so what's going on, y'all? So Gilbert Burns and Belal Muhammad announced for what is it, UFC 288?
Yep.
Is it 288? I lose,
288,
I
May
lose
6th.
I lose track of all these numbers. There's so many of them.
Mm,
So
yeah.
yeah, we want to talk about it. I think this one was super unique to me because of how it came together. A lot of times you'll see the fighters jump on Twitter and say all of these things, and a lot of times I feel like they're just talking out their ass. They're not really saying nothing. Really, they don't really mean nothing. But like in this case, like Gilbert was like, I'll jump in and fill in, and Bilal is the type of fighter who he'll come off the couch and fight somebody too. And the fighters, the fans, and the organization were all on one accord for once and got the fight done. So I thought this was pretty unique that actually occurred in real life, because that often that's not the case. So,
You think he jumped in to fill in, or I
well,
think he had his personal agenda where I think it does also go back to the whole Bilal being what, 4, and Gilbert was like, who said?
for real, I mean, he did.
And was like, you know, title shot would be coming up next, right? And he's like,
True.
oh nah, we gonna fight for this title shot.
Yeah. So, um, Gilbert, he said something interesting, and me and you talked about it. The submission radio interview, where he said basically they were both racing for this title shot, and basically whoever gets there first wins. And I kind of liken it to like a 400-meter race, and which is a sprint, but it's a well thought out sprint. You can't go 100 miles per hour the whole way, or you're going to gas out. You got to pick your spots. And I feel like in this instance, Gilbert is finding when to kick, when to put in 100% to get to, his final goal, which is to get another title shot. And this is a perfect way to do it. And it actually helps Bilal in the same breath, because I mean, in point blank, whoever wins this fight is going to fight for the belt next. I mean, you can't really deny whoever wins this fight. Um, the shot at whoever wins between Colby and Leon. So it's actually perfect timing, and it works out for everybody involved, in my opinion. And Gilbert said it correctly, where with it being a race, if you put your foot on the gas at the right time, it's going to take you where you need to go. So I think it was perfect. It was a perfect call
Hmm.
out, perfect setup, and
Well,
hopefully we
I
get an
think,
interesting fight.
yeah, I think Gilbert looked at it as, there's luck and then there's opportunity, and he's creating his opportunity. So
Yeah,
it's super
I agree.
admirable.
I agree. So looking at the tail of the tape or the breakdown, so Gilbert Burns is 36, Bilal's 34. They're about the same height, 5'10". Their reach is almost identical, 71 to 72. Bilal has a little bit more of a reach. Their leg reach is identical. They're both orthodox. And we all know, Gilbert is a BJJ black belt, but he has fallen in love with his hands, and his hands have gotten him a lot of victories. And they list Bilal as a striker, but I think he's really well rounded. I wouldn't necessarily say that he's like a punishing striker. He's not like out here like taking people's lunch money in the striking department, um, but I mean he's a very good striker.
Well, so in whatever podcast you just mentioned, sorry, I don't know their name, but they called Gilbert Burns uh, Batman.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
they
they
called him
did.
Batman. So, So
He
what would we
did.
call Bilal Muhammad? Because for whatever reason, and I'm not a good, judge of this, but I'm thinking like Daredevil. I don't know why. There's no. It's just like the first thing that comes to mind. You say Bilal Muhammad, I'm
Why
like
you say why you say
Daredevil.
Daredevil? Why you say Daredevil? Why do you say Daredevil? Are you shitting on Daredevil right now? Like
I'm not
Daredevil is
shitting
a
on Daredevil
Daredevil
right
is
now.
a legit
Yeah,
like Marvel superhero.
for real.
Wait, is he superhero or just regular hero?
You tell me. I said I'm not a good judge of this. I'm not. It's not really my thing. But if it was like a one answer response, and you're like, "Hey, what superhero do you think of when you think
Daredevil.
of Bilal Muhammad?" Daredevil, instant. Don't know why. So make it make sense.
Okay, so
You
I,
know,
I I can see where you're coming from as far as Daredevil in the sense that Daredevil is a street level superhero. Batman is a planet saving superhero. It's two different levels. They're both heroes, but
but you
um,
can't write Daredevil off.
you can't. You can't. He has elite striking, but 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 he's not on that level. And so I feel like you're saying that Gilbert is a couple of levels above Bilal. Is that what you're saying right now?
Seemingly, before I started looking into Bilal a little bit more, and then really doing the side by side comparison. Obviously, I'm kind of poking at Bilal with the Daredevil, but that was genuine. I really did think Daredevil off the top, but I don't know. Let's continue doing like a side by side, and we'll circle back to Batman versus Daredevil. Maybe something else will come to mind.
Okay. So Gilbert Burns, looking at him first, he's 15-5 in the UFC, 22-5 overall. Um, most of his wins have come by decision, but he does finish a lot of fights. That's that stands out to me. That stands out. He's got
Bilal
five.
has more decisions. Is that what you said?
Well, I was saying that Gilbert Burns has a lot of finishes, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously Bilal is he's a decision master. He's a
Mm-hmm.
master of decisions.
16 and
Um,
2 decisions.
yeah. So six.
Where,
He's got some of the most. What was it? He's tied for the sixth most decisions in UFC history. It's not
yeah. Hey, there's
it's not
still wins.
a
So
win. It's a win. It's a win. Um, but to me, that factors in heavy into the fight. So my thought process is let's take what we know. We know that this is a short notice fight. We know that Bilal Muhammad asked for this to be a 185, and then he asked for it to be a 175. And we also know from that same interview that Gilbert was like, "Hell no, you need to go ahead and go do a run right now, so you can get that weight down." He wasn't going to do him any favors, and so in watching a lot of Bilal Muhammad fights, I see that he weaponizes his cardio. He outlasts people. And that's where we're getting a lot of these decisions because he does get stronger as the rounds go on. I feel like because of this fight being more of a short notice fight, and most of his camp, this abbreviated camp, is going to be towards him getting that weight off. I feel like he's losing his biggest tool, which is his cardio. And with Bilal having more ways to win, I see. Okay,
Bilal having more ways to
I mean
win or
not Bilal,
Gilbert?
Gilbert.
Okay.
With Gilbert having more ways to win, I see Gilbert finding those ways to win, especially with this being a 5 round fight. 5 rounds off the couch, 5 rounds. That's
That's
a
so
long time
wild to me. 5 rounds.
off the couch.
Gilbert, okay, so he just fought Neil. This is January. Now you know,
Well, Jorge last month, and then Neil in January. Yeah,
right. And with Neil, it was, a round one submission. So obviously not easy work, but for Gilbert, easier than others. And then Jorge, was it a war? No,
No,
if you
but I
can,
mean, but Jorge
you
made
know,
him work for 15 minutes.
he did. Yeah, say 15 minutes.
Well, I mean, it's
It's the facts. It's
15
the
minutes.
facts. It's the facts. It's the facts. Okay,
I
okay.
wasn't.
No, yeah,
It's
yeah,
15 minutes.
yeah. I guess it just, when you compare it to, the Hamzat fight and you say he made him work for 15 minutes, it's like, oh, okay. I almost want to call it, without disrespecting, obviously, Jorge, a warm up. That's just the facts. You compare that to Hamzat. No, he made him work. That was a
Yeah,
war.
yeah. If you
Like,
take out the name, you take out the Jorge Masvidal name, and just put Fighter X,
hmm
and he fought him on his retirement fight,
hmm
then yeah, I mean, you're gonna look at it quite differently um, than with it having the Jorge Masvidal name. So, in essence, uh, Gilbert, if you just look at the last two wins and were to say, okay, we're going to stack that up and say, okay, do you get a title shot next? People would say, well, let's look at the other people. But but I would still say, going back to the working part, like
that's
Jorge
three
didn't make it.
fights.
Yeah, like Jorge didn't make him. Um, he wasn't in danger or anything like that, but he still had to work. He couldn't finish him. So
Right. That's okay. That's very true. That's very
whereas
true.
Neil Magny, who is still fighting, got finished in less than 5 minutes.
True. Round
Um,
one. On the
Belal
flip
Muhammad
side,
on the other side, yeah, he's 13 and
gotta,
3
yeah.
in the division, or not in the division, in the UFC. But yeah, you were about to say something about his last fights.
Well, just his last fight, that was a TKO round two. Was that Sean
Mhm.
Brady?
Yeah,
But that's
yeah,
in October of 22.
true, true, true.
So on the flip side of Bilal losing a little bit of his cardio, possibly, right? um, two fights, two fights, and something that Gilbert pointed to was the challenge mentally coming
Hmm.
into these fights, which is why they made the Batman comparison, right? Because he's two people essentially. He's,
Yeah,
Gilbert,
true.
the family man, the dad, and then what's his nickname? Is it Dorino?
Dorino, yeah,
Dorino. I wonder what that means. All right, so then he's Dorino in the octagon. So that's really tough.
yeah,
So he's
yeah.
kind of, I don't know if when he said it, it was we don't obviously know what's good or bad, but what did he really mean by that? The mental challenge. Not to say Bilal's not going through any type of mental challenge himself. He
Yeah,
hasn't fought since October.
true, true. I mean, I think that the mental challenge that Bilal is faced with is the weight cut, is trying to make sure that his weight is where it needs to be. Um, he never struggles before. He's been in this division for a long time, so I have no doubt that he's going to hit it. But when you're taking short notice fights, your focus tends to be towards trying to get your weight where it needs to be to make sure you don't lose 20% of your purse. So I think that that's going to be his focus, not adding new tools, not um, curating his game for Gilbert Burns and what Gilbert Burns does well. So I think that the time that he loses focusing on um, getting right for the weigh in, that first fight, with the scale, he's gonna end up putting himself in a bad position when it comes to the actual fight. But I mean, we'll see. Does it get to the championship rounds at all? Does it get to round 4? Does it get to round 5? Maybe Gilbert's fresh. He just came off a fight, like you said, and I think that his mind is still there. He even remarked in that interview that when he goes to sleep, that You know, his mind is still in the cage. He's still thinking about being in the cage. So Bilal has been removed from that for how many months now? 6. It's just different. It's a different feel. So I feel like if I'm Bilal, like I understand why he had to take this fight because opportunity presented itself, but I feel like it really kind of puts him in a disadvantage. He's the type of fighter in my position or in my opinion that needs that time to plan, needs to find holes in the other person's game in order to be successful at this level, and he's giving himself no time.
Okay, so this is a last minute fight for him.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
Because I mean, when is the fight? When is the? It's
I guess okay, so they just announced it. I don't even
yeah,
know how many days ago. 2, 3 days ago, maybe.
yeah, yeah. They
Okay.
fight May 6th. Like they normally have a 8 week, 6 week at the least camp.
Okay, that's a fair point. Meaning his camp would be how long?
2 weeks,
Who? I hope he's
and
at weight
and
right
then
now.
and then you budget in flying. You got to fly there too.
Aren't aren't they fighting? Where are they fighting? I didn't think they were gonna fly anywhere because he's in Chicago, right?
I mean, that's assuming that he is in Chicago. I mean, there's no telling where he is right now, but I'm assuming that he's in Chicago. I'm assuming, but they're not gonna fight in Chicago.
You're just meaning the time of like that he's flying. He's not,
Well,
you
you got to
know.
fly there. You got,
Yeah,
you're normally there fight week, so you fly there, get yourself settled, do whatever last minute weight cutting type of things. Got to do media, um, all
yeah,
those things.
that's true. They're in New Jersey.
Oh yeah, so
Okay.
it's not a crazy flight. You know,
Yeah,
you're changing one time zone, so he's losing an hour. No big deal, but it's just the fact that you don't get a full camp
okay. So he doesn't
to
get a full
prepare.
camp
No,
to prepare for Gilbert, which that's ideally what you want to do. But okay, so before his Sean Brady fight, he fought Vicente Luque. This is April 2022,
yeah,
right? So that was a 5 round fight.
yeah.
And that was unanimous decision, but he still went 5 rounds. Then he fought Wonder Boy, who December 2021,
Hmm.
3 round fight, unanimous decision. But still, I'm kind of looking at the time frame of his last 3 fights, and there's not a lot of space. Ugh. Maybe in between Wonder Boy and Sean Brady, but it's not like we don't know he can go.
He can go five
Like
rounds.
his cardio is, I just feel like his cardio right now is not going to be much different than it normally would. And really, the only difference right now is Ramadan, right? Like he's probably not eating as much or what he usually eats, not training as much as he normally can. I still don't think it'll be much of a difference, though.
I think it will. It's just 25 minutes. That's a long time. It's not to say that he has bad cardio because he doesn't. He has great cardio, but that's his biggest weapon. And if it's not finely tuned, it's not a weapon.
This is true. This
So
is makes sense. This is makes sense.
so I mean, just to give my prediction, like I think Gilbert wins. Um, I mean, I think he might submit him in the third.
I'll give you that. I agree with that.
I think he might submit him in the third. I think that's my prediction. Gilbert Burns by submission in the third round. He calls out the winner of Leon versus Colby whenever that happens. Which, by the way, I heard that Leon. I think he said that Leon had an injury. I didn't know that Leon had an injury. It's a minor one, but not an injury that pushed back the fight from being in July to probably October.
Okay, I'm gonna pin that really quick because I have a Gilbert Burns question, but I'll give you my prediction. And would say that if Gilbert wins, I actually think he could knock him out. I don't know what round, but I do think Gilbert can knock him out, and that would be my prediction if Gilbert wins.
So you're saying Gilbert Burns by knockout at some point?
Right. And if Belal wins, I think they go all 5, and it's a decision, a split decision.
A split.
A split decision.
I wouldn't argue that, actually. I could totally see that if it lasts that long, but I don't know.
Don't see it last that long.
Gilbert, with the hair, like he had the with the farmer overalls. I feel like he's turned a corner. Something's different about this man.
He really is coming. He's like got a little Jorge story. It's pretty similar to Jorge.
Yeah. And you know what? I like the way that it's interesting the way that he speaks. Like, when somebody they are Brazilian and they're learning English, and you can hear the accent because it's a very distinct accent, and you can still hear his, but like he speaks English so well, and he like conveys how he feels really, really well in English. And so that's what makes him and the way that his story has gone so interesting, because he's a lot more marketable now than some other Brazilian fighters who have transitioned in, but they aren't able to really like show their personality. Yeah, like I'm sure he knows a little bit of English, but like he's not comfortable enough.
You hear it a lot too. Like,
yeah.
Like if you're on Reddit and there's like, people who comment about Charles, it's often you find they talk about the commentator and just really not being able to translate, maybe like the sentiment or whatever the case is about Charles, and them kind of saying, yeah, you can't really see his personality. Body language does give a little bit to it, but I agree with that for sure. So yeah. Gilbert is more marketable, and I think he still has some moments where, and I think a lot of people that don't speak English, is not their first language, they'll maybe repeat something they've said a couple times because they just can't find the words, but he doesn't stay there too long. Like he'll find it. Kind of scrambles about, but he finds it.
He does a really good job with it. I think that my hope is that Leon beats Colby and Leon fights Gilbert. I think that would be a really big fight, a really entertaining fight, and it will be hard to figure out where to side on that, because you're like, on one end you're like, Leon is, this amazing story to get to the belt, and one shot dead, and all this stuff, but Gilbert's story is pretty dope too, and it would be really cool to see him actually get the belt and celebrate with his family and stuff. Like that would be amazing. But either way, I think
that means Gilbert would fight Gilbert would fight 4 times this year if it pans out the way that he hopes.
Yeah, and you know what? If Gilbert beats Belal and then beats whomever wins the Leon Colby fight and gets the belt, he is hands down going to be the fighter of the year. Hands down, they're going to give it to him. 4 times.
That's true.
4 times, like that would be amazing. I don't know who else you could give it to be
Izzy.
honest.
Because that's true, he's only fought once, but
because he
4 times,
that demon, but 4 times,
and it was a celebration, like, and how big he is, and yada yada yada. And then if he fights again,
it's magical.
Yeah,
it's magical.
I'm just answering your question. I'm not saying I necessarily agree. Who else could you give it to? It's possible.
It's early, we don't know, but like, just the way it's trending right now, like I feel like Gilbert Burns would be the leader in the clubhouse. Like he's going to be the one that's at the top of the list, at least for now. You never know. Like it could be somebody crazy, like maybe Brandon Royval fights for the belt next and smashes Brandon Moreno, or who's he fighting? Alexander Pantoja.
Oh,
Like maybe he. Who knows? Who knows how it shakes out? But at least right now,
Sergey. He fights John Jones
Sir
and he beats
Sergey's not even
John.
good. Sergey's not even going to fight anymore this year. I can
Stipe's
almost
hurt.
guarantee it.
Stipe's hurt.
Man,
Mayweather finally gives
John better
Francis a
hope that
fight.
Stipe is not hurt.
He's gonna have to fight Sergey.
That would be awful. I
Yeah,
still
his,
favor John in that, by the way, but that would be an awful fight. God, that would be so
well,
bad.
Gilbert
It would be
Gilbert
great and
has
awful.
it'll be great and awful.
Yeah, I mean, it would. It's basically the knockoff version of what we would have gotten with Francis and John. It's a very similar style, even though Sergey is actually a pretty good wrestler.
Hmm.
And
Actually,
Francis actually kind of is too. It's weird, but it would be a similar style of fight.
I thought you were gonna call Sergey a knockoff or of Jan Blachowicz.
Oh,
That's what I thought you were gonna say, but
I could see that. I mean, I could see that, but
mhm.
Sergey is he's different. His power is. It reminds me of Francis. It's not on that same level though.
Francis is faster,
Yeah, he is.
but
He's more athletic.
he's right there. He's not too far.
Yeah.
I was gonna
So,
say Gilbert's got that Roy uh Kendall look in his eye when he thinks he's about to be
oh
the
right.
boss that we were looking at. Like he has that look in his eye. He's coming for heads for sure.
Yeah. Even
I'm
though he looks
excited.
like Jeff Daniels from Dumb and Dumber. Yeah.
Who?
Sergey.
I was talking
You
about
said it.
Gilbert. I was talking about Gilbert. He has a
Oh, I
Roy
thought you were talking
Kendall
about
look in
Sergey
his eye.
still. Oh yeah, he does. He does do that. Yeah.
He's got that look. He's definitely coming for heads. Oh no, Belal. Remember the name, but all I can think about is that eye poke for sure now.
Yeah. Remember the name, but forget the game. Yeah. It's sad. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think we know how this is going to shake out, but hey, people have been wrong tons of times, and we
Let's
could totally be wrong.
well
I don't think so, though. I don't think so.
before we wrap up, I wanna know and circle back. Do you think Belal is Daredevil? I don't know. What do you think?
Um, I think that I could give him Daredevil. I think that the thing about Daredevil is he beats up other regular like people. It's just when he starts to get into the upper echelon of things, can't beat him. And I feel like Bilal's going to be in that same situation, and the fight against Gilbert is going to show it. When he gets to the upper echelon of fighters, I feel like that's where he's going to trip up.
All right.
So yeah, I think that Daredevil was a good.
Random, out of nowhere pick.
Yeah.
Off camera, I'll tell you for real why Daredevil. But if y'all subscribe to the channel, we might DM y'all why Daredevil.
Yeah, for sure, we'll do that.
All right.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, I'm sure we'll have some more picks coming up. There's some more fights that came up recently, so whenever we feel the itch, we'll we'll throw those out here too. But anyway, as usual, we'll holler at y'all.